In Unreal Engine, we can merge multiple static mesh actors into one. This reduces draw calls and helps with project optimization. If you just want to learn how to merge your meshes, watch this short video. In this video, I'm gonna dive deep into the merge settings. So let's do it. I have 3 meshes with different materials. Select them. From the actor menu, select Convert Actors to Static Mesh. Select the folder and the name. Then click on Save. Let's drag the generated mesh into the level. The new mesh is comprised of these 3 meshes and it has 4 material elements. Previously we had 3 meshes and 4 materials, which is 7 draw calls. Now we have 1 mesh and 4 materials, which is 5 draw calls. The materials are the same materials used by the source meshes, and their order is based on the order we selected the meshes. So I first selected the box, then the cone, and the cylinder was the last one I selected. That's why elements 0 and 1 are the same as the box, and element 2 and 3 are green and blue as the cone and the cylinder. The pivot point is placed in the center bottom of the selected mesh's boundary box. I'll move the cylinder to here and change the order of selecting them. Then I'll merge them again. We can see that both the order of the elements and the pivot location has changed. This isn't a good place for the pivot. We can actually change it within the engine. Watch this video to learn how to change the pivot inside Unreal Engine. Up here, click on Selection Mode and select Modeling. The shortcut is Shift and 5. If you don't have it, go to Plugins and search for Modeling Tools. Make sure Modeling Tools Editor mode is turned on. So I'll press Shift and 5 to go to Modeling mode. The Modeling tab will open here. Select the meshes. Then under Xform, select Merge. Write to gives us 3 options. New object will output a new object. First input object will attach all the meshes to the first one we selected. And last input object will attach all the meshes to the last one we selected. When we set it to first or last input object, the output type hides and the name option changes to the name of the first or the last object. Name is the name of the new asset that will be created. Output type is by default set to from input. Our inputs are static meshes, so the output will be a static mesh too. We can also set it as volume or dynamic mesh. Let's set it to volume. We'll be able to select the volume type down here. Blocking volume is fine. After clicking on accept, we'll have a volume with the exact shape of our meshes. In fact, we can even use it to merge volumes too. Or we can merge the volumes and set the output type to a static mesh, and it will output a static mesh. Handle inputs is an important option. It controls what happens to the input or source meshes. We should always check it before clicking on accept. It gives us 5 options. The names are pretty much self-explanatory, and if we hover the mouse on top of them, the tooltip tells us exactly what they do. I mostly set it to hide inputs. Down here, these are the modeling mode quick settings. It's for all the modeling operation we may use. Their defaults are fine. The only one we may want to change is where the merged mesh should be saved. Autogen folder word relative creates a folder next to the level you're working in and puts the new mesh there. Autogen folder global creates a new folder in the content and puts the mesh there. And current folder puts the merged mesh in any folder that is currently open in the content browser. This is the one I use most of the time. Make sure you're in the folder you want the new mesh to be saved in. Then click on accept. The new merged mesh will be saved here. We can drag and drop it in the scene and use it as one object. It's also added to the level exactly where the source meshes were placed, and the source meshes are hidden. The material elements are based on the order we selected the meshes, just like the previous method, and the pivot is in the center bottom. Now let's get to the third method. But before getting to that, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join our community on Telegram, Discord and Facebook. Select the meshes. Up here click on Actor. Under Merge Actors, there are these different operations we can select from. They handle the merging process differently. I'll go over them as well as the Merge Actor settings later in the video. So for now, let's go with Merge. This number 3 here next to Merge Actors is the number of the actors we've selected. If you don't know what an actor is, you can watch this video. Click on Merge. A new window opens. We can create a new folder or select a folder. I'll select this one. Down here we can name the new mesh. After that, click on Save. The content browser will automatically open where the new asset is created. The asterisk sign means that it's not saved, so first I'll save it. Then I'll drag it into the level. The pivot is the pivot of the first mesh I selected. I first selected the box, so that's why the pivot point is here. And the material elements are based on the order we selected the meshes, just like the previous methods. Let's change the order of the selection and merge them again. You can see that the pivot and the order of the material elements are changed. Again, select the actors. Under the Tools menu, there is a Merge Actors option. Click on it to open it. The Merge Actors window will open. It's actually the same as the Merge Actors settings here. We can leave it floating or dock it anywhere we want. I'll dock it next to the content browser. Up here we can change the merge method. They are the same as the options we had here. Let's go over them one by one. Merge combines all selected static mesh actors and creates one mesh with one element for each material. We can specify LOD levels to use. The number of draw calls is equivalent to the number of the materials. This method preserves the UVs and occlusion calling is performed per section. Simplify merges all selected static mesh actors into a single mesh called a proxy mesh. It uses the lowest detail LOD of each selected mesh and simplifies mesh geometry based on the settings provided. Vertex count is also reduced. There will only be one draw call. It bakes one material for the entire mesh and does not preserve UVs. And occlusion calling is performed for the whole mesh. Batch creates instance static mesh components from identical static mesh components. It preserves UVs and does not affect occlusion calling. Approximate is new to Unreal Engine 5. It is similar to Simplify, but it can handle much more complex source meshes, for example nanoid meshes. Simplify method would fail during either the simplification or the texture baking steps when dealing with these types of meshes. Down here on the left, there's a list of what we want to merge. It's useful especially if we're working in a crowded scene where we might accidentally select other meshes. We can deselect the ones we don't want to be merged from the viewport or the outliner, or we can uncheck them here. For example, let's duplicate these actors. Now I can select all of them. In here, first enable these three and merge, then enable these three and merge these ones. So we won't need to select and deselect assets in the level. Down here, there is the Replace Source Actors option. When enabled, the merged mesh automatically replaces the source actors in the level. Let's enable it and click on Merge. Save the new mesh, and as you can see, the source meshes are deleted and the merged mesh has replaced them. I'll disable it for the rest of this video, but it's a handy option when working on projects. On the right we have the merge settings. Let's open it. A long list of settings opens. Generate Lightmap UVs creates a new Lightmap UV layout for the merged static mesh actor using the existing UV islands. The new layout will be placed in the target Lightmap UV channel. We can enable or disable it based on the mobility of our lights. If the lighting is dynamic, we don't need it. If we want to build the lighting, then we should enable it. These two will live at default. Next one is pivot point at 0. By default, the pivot of the merged mesh will be the pivot of the first mesh we select. If we enable this option, then no matter the order of the selection, the pivot will be at the origin of the world. Let me show you what it means. I'll copy this box and set its location to the origin of the world just to show you where it is. So now let's select these actors again and enable this option here. Click on Merge Actors. I'll save it next to the previous ones. Let's drag it into the scene. Now if I set its location to 0, 0, 0, it will be exactly here where the source meshes are. Delete it. Let's select the actors and go back to the Merge Actor settings. Merge Physics data merges all the collision primitives into a single physics object. It means that each mesh will keep its collision. If I press Alt-C while the viewport is active, we'll be able to see the collisions. I've added a box collision for each of these meshes. When Merge Physics data is enabled, the merged mesh will have the same collision. Let's check it. Yeah, they're the same. Now I'll disable it and then merge them again. And the merged mesh doesn't have any collision, so that's something you may want to consider. Press Alt-C again to hide the collisions. Merge mesh sockets is self-explanatory. Mesh sockets are used to attach something to your meshes without having to parent and set the transform of the objects manually. Merge materials is a great option. I've made a video just for that, so go ahead and watch it. I'll put its link in the description below. These two are also for merging the material. Output UVs is an array that contains multiple UV channels. If the source meshes contain valid UVs for a specified channel, you can select whether or not to output the UV channel into the merged static mesh actor. It didn't work when I tried it with UV channel 0. I couldn't figure it out. LOD selection type gives us the ability to control which LODs are added to the merged object, and these are the options to choose from. These two are also for merging the material. If Reuse Mesh Lightmap UVs is disabled, then Unreal Engine will generate a new set of lightmap UVs for the merged mesh. If it's enabled, it will use the lightmap UVs of the source static meshes. By default, Merge Equivalent Materials is enabled. It's a tricky one. Most of the time it's better if we turn it off. Let me show you why. Right now, all the materials on the meshes are different. So when we merge them, we'll get 4 material elements, as we saw in the previous examples. If any of them are using the same material, then it will make them one element. So if I browse this blue material and assign it also to the cone, and then merge them, the merged mesh will have 3 elements, and if I open the merged mesh and isolate this material element, we can see that they're one material element. Now I want to show you why I think merge equivalent materials should be disabled. I'll duplicate this material and I'll assign it to the cone. Now let's see what happens if I merge them with this option enabled. As you can see, the cylinder doesn't have any material on it. It's still a separate material element, but its element has been deleted, so no material can be assigned to it. It can be fixed. We can add a material element with the modeling tools as I show in this video. But if I first disable merge equivalent materials and then merge the actors, we can see that all the elements are there. Use landscape calling is for when a part of the mesh is below the landscape. According to the documentation, if the landscape calling option is enabled, Unreal Engine will use existing landscape geometry to call fully occluded triangles when merging actors. I tried it, but it didn't work for me. So if you managed to get it to work, please do tell me in the comments below. If include imposters is enabled, the merge will include imposter LODs that are part of the source static meshes. Imposters are a common technique for creating LODs and improving performance. Support ray tracing is whether you want the mesh to be supported when using ray tracing. And allow distance field is whether you want to allow the distance field to be computed for this mesh. The default is fine for these two. Under Nanite settings, we have a load of settings. The default is fine most of the time. We just need to select whether we want the merged mesh to be Nanite or not. The settings for Simplify, Batch and Approximate would need their own specific video, so I'll just leave the link to the Unreal Engine documentation for those who want to know more about them. And that's it. That's all the settings minus merging materials which I've explained in this video. So check it out and thank you so much for watching. Like this video, subscribe and join our community on Telegram, Discord and Facebook. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. So, see you in the next one.